So this is A Few Good Fights. I'm your host Rob, as always, and I'm joined as always by Sean.
Hello, babies.
We love it. We're going to keep that one.
Yeah, I think I'm sticking with that one.
It's the best. Every good radio host has a good catchphrase, even though this isn't radio. This is UFC 247 fight week. Jon Jones is back and he's fighting Dominic Reyes this weekend. We're going to talk about all of that with the great Sean Sheehan. We're also going to talk about Usman versus Masvidal. Is it actually going to happen? Is it the right fight? And also, Colby Covington is back in the news because he's back out there talking the stuff that Colby Covington usually talks. Also, I don't know if you've seen this, Sean, but Conor McGregor is apparently getting the next title fight against Khabib or Tony Ferguson. Is that right? We're going to talk to Sean about it. Let's go. So we're now joined by Sean Sheehan of Severe MMA and the Severe MMA podcast, and you can also find him on Patreon, and we can give all your links and all at the end of the show. But Sean, thanks for joining us. It's been a long time since we had you on, but yeah, thanks.
No bother, lads. Thanks for having me. Happy New Year. Obviously a big week coming up in MMA and a big time as well, so I'm glad to be on, glad to be back on.
Yeah, he's a pro. He transitions right to it. Let's jump straight into it. It's UFC 247 fight week. Jon Jones is back. He fights Dominic Reyes. We haven't got a failed drug test just yet, but I'm waiting. It should come very, very soon. The pulse and effect and all that. But Sean, what's your thoughts on this fight going in? How do you rate Reyes as a challenger to Jon Jones?
I think he's a pretty good challenger, you know, and it's tough to say because you're fighting Jon Jones. You know, it's like Liverpool at the moment. How good are teams that actually play him, because they're so much better than everyone? It's tough to know how good they are, you know, when they go up against that person or when they're entering that match at the start. So, like, you're going up against Jon Jones, and arguably the greatest of all time. For me, the second or third greatest of all time, behind Demetrius Johnson, maybe George St. Pierre as well, but by far and away the best light heavyweight of all time, and just a tough matchup in all areas. Like, talking this week about the fight in different places, and he can fight in every way. You know, Jones could go out and he could take you down, he could beat you on the feet, he could fight off the back foot, he can attack you, he can fight you in the clinch, he can beat you everywhere, he can submit you, knock you out. So to beat Jones, like, what's the game plan to beat Jones? I do this thing over on our Patreon, the rewatch, where I watch a Jones fight, I watch a Reyes fight, and see maybe gaps in both their games or good things about them, how they can fight the other person. And it's very difficult to see any way of beating Jon Jones, because his adjustments are so good. Like, he come out doing one thing and you could have success, like Thiago Santos had, like Alexander Gustafsson had a little bit, and he can turn around and switch and win the last two rounds and take away the fight. So I suppose to kind of start it off a long-winded way of saying it, it's very difficult to fight Jon Jones, but Dominic Reyes has good things, and he can definitely do good things against Jon Jones.
Do you think it's a case in Reyes' case that maybe because the division is, I wouldn't say weak, but, you know, it's maybe lacking, or at least it's just because Jon Jones is so good that he might be getting to this point a little bit too quickly?
Yeah, I was talking to Graham on the podcast about that as well this week, and I think that's definitely it. But it's funny in MMA sometimes you think people are getting there too early, and it's not too early. Like Chris Weidman, I thought it was too early. I wrote this big article saying that he'd no chance against Anderson Silva and everything. He goes out and knocks him out. So I've been stupid before, so I won't do it again, but I probably will do it again. I think it is a little bit too early. Like, watching back Reyes' fights, and this is the first time Reyes has been in, obviously, a title fight, but in a kind of a huge fight. You know, the Weidman fight was a big fight, the Cannonier fight, the Volkan Ozdemir fight, all good fights, but this is the first time I did, like, a real deep dive on him as a fighter, and he fights in such a way that I think he will improve. You know, you talk about there, maybe in 18 months he'll be a little bit better. I think he will. But it's, as you said, the division is so light. We saw it at 125 pounds as well. That division was so light for so long. People were getting there just too early against Demetrius Johnson, and that was a big issue. And I think that's even more so for Dominic Reyes, because, you know, the way he fights has a lot to do, I think, with timing, and a lot to do with, you know, maybe rounds in there. And he's got a few rounds over his last few fights, in fairness to him. But I think the more experience, the more rounds he gets in there, the better he actually will be.
Yeah, like Jon Jones as well lately, like, he was known as a finisher early in his career, but it hasn't seemed to be going that way for him in his last few fights. Do you think that that's a thing of the guys catching up with him and maybe getting to his level, or do you feel like maybe it's the pressure of being champion and not wanting to lose instead of actually wanting to win and get out there and finish guys?
The thing is, we actually don't see it that often in MMA, but dominant champions like that, they're the person that's there at the top of the game all the time. Like Conor McGregor, when he was coming up at 145, who's he aiming for? Aldo. Chris Weidman coming up at middleweight, who's he aiming for? Anderson Silva. Everyone's aiming for John Jones as they go up. Now, they're developing their games to beat John Jones. It has been unsuccessful so far, but that's what they're doing. Also, every time you're fighting someone really good. You're fighting someone on a 4 or 5 fight win streak who's is building momentum, who's right at the top of their game, at their confidence levels are sky high as well. And I think that's the issue. We see a lot of that in MMA, just at the high level, because it's so tough. But I think a thing with Jones as well. It's funny, I said the same thing maybe before the last fight, but I gone back and watched a few of his most recent fights, and I actually think he's trying to change a little bit. Like, he finished Gustafsson, okay, the Thiago Santos fight was a little bit different. I think maybe that fight went a little bit tougher for him than he expected. But I think Jones is adjusting his style. He's adjusting his style in that he's fighting in many different ways in the same fight, because people kind of maybe know what to expect from him a little bit more in those different ways of fighting. But I think he also knows how judging is these days, and he knows that if you're jabbing around and you're trying to win a 5-round decision against someone by just maybe landing more shots than him, that's not good enough these days. When you're fighting a hitter like Dominic Reyes, like Thiago Santos, like Anthony Smith or stuff, you have to up it. You have to be perfect defensively, but I think you also have to land bigger, harder shots. And especially in that Gustafsson second fight, he was throwing away more power shots than he normally does, and in the end he took it down to the ground and got the finish there. But I think he sees that. I think John Jones is intelligent enough. Most people in MMA don't bother looking at judging, don't bother looking at how that game has changed and how you should adjust to it. But John Jones, by watching his last few fights, I think he definitely has. So that's an interesting thing to take into this fight and see, will John Jones be going, maybe not power for power with him, but landing more powerful shots than maybe we've expected out of him before.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point as well, Sean. I think that people underestimate the guys like this, like John Jones, who can just keep winning at the top of the game. Like, just keep winning and defending that title, because, like, as you said, all these guys under him are gunning for him. They're building out their game plans to beat him, and he's looking down, and he can't really look at one guy. It's just all these new contenders. So I do think people underestimate that.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that's probably the toughest thing to do in MMA, because MMA is a game where, they say that the game of 8 limbs, where you can throw so many different things and you can do so many different things all the time. The hardest thing in MMA is to beat someone who knows what's coming. And against, if you're how many title defenses he has? I think I read today it was a 13.
Yeah, something like that.
Or something like that. That's an awful lot of tape on someone. As you said, he's gone to a lot of decisions. That's an awful lot of tape on someone to be able to look at and to be able to analyse. Dominic Reyes has only 12 fights. Never mind title fights at the very, very top level. Dominic Reyes probably only has 2 or 3 fights of being at the top level. So it's a very different game, the two people going into these fights are playing, and it just shows how good John Jones is, that he can stay at the top when that's the case. Yeah.
One thing we talk about on the show, or we talked about at least last week, was John Jones and heavyweight, because that's the big discussion. It's, will John Jones go up, or will Israel Adesanya eventually fight John Jones? They're the two big questions. But my question to you is, would John Jones, or would his legacy be affected if he never goes to heavyweight? If he continues to fight at light heavyweight and continues to defend his title, would his legacy be affected if he never makes that move up?
Do you know what? I think that's a question we can't answer in MMA, because who has a legacy in MMA? Like, name one person in MMA who's actually retired. Like, there's no one. Is Ken Shamrock retired? Is Heist Gracie retired? No, like the people who fought in
GSP maybe, but we still don't know about him.
He's not retired either. Like, no, there's nobody retired in MMA. So we don't really, we talk an awful lot about legacy in MMA, but who actually has legacy in MMA? Who's looking back at their career to see their legacy? It's a question maybe we'll be able to answer in 15 years or something like that, because these people just be so old they won't be able to fight. That's the only way I think of stopping people from fighting in MMA. But look, I think about John Jones and him moving to heavyweight. This might sound bad, and it is bad, but John Jones is a bully. That's what John Jones is. He goes in there, he bullies people, he beats people at what they're best at, and he just bullies people. He wants to be the bigger, better guy at all times, and by John Jones going to heavyweight, he can no longer be assured of being the bully. So it's interesting to see if he will give up that, if he will go to heavyweight.
We lost Sean Sheehan there for a second. We will reconnect. Yeah, we just lost you there for a second, but we got the gist of what you were saying. Do you have any interest in Adesanya versus John Jones?
Yeah, I'd love to see that fight. I think it's a fantastic fight. You're looking at the fight and saying on the feet, I think it'd be really, really good. I think Adesanya has the ability to go toe to toe with John Jones in kind of a jabbing match, in a striking match. The thing is with Jones, and I think it's interesting this weekend. I think we'll get a couple of questions answered whether Jones is getting away from this thing where he's going to attack someone in their best area.
Yeah.
If he goes in there and fights Adesanya and just tries to put him down and beat him in a wrestling match or in a grappling match, I think he probably would. He's just a bigger, stronger guy as well. But Adesanya's takedown defense has improved an awful lot over the last while. His striking is fantastic. I'd absolutely love to see the fight. Like, I'm not a big one on, meaningful things for the division or I like fights. I want to see a good fighter fight a good fighter. And that, to me, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah. We're going to get a pick off you, Sean. I don't know if you've put out your picks yet, but what's your pick in the main event of this one?
I actually sent it to someone there a minute ago. Is John Jones anyway? I think he'd win by submission in around round 3. I think that was my official. It will be out in severe during the week summer, but I think that's it. I actually am not ruling out Reyes out of this fight at all, to be honest, and I think lots of people are. But haven't watched him. I think he has plenty ability. He has the ability to break the distance. I actually think. Maybe not a better athlete than John Jones, but in a certain way he is a better athlete. I think he is faster and more powerful than John Jones in certain ways at breaking that distance from the outside. I think he's fantastic at doing that. Attacks the body very well as well. I think he'll do that against Jones, but I feel like Jones will get the opportunities to wrestle with him. I think Jones is way better in the clinch. I think he'll take him down from the clinch and probably end up submitting him at some stage, but I don't think it's a gimme for Jones at any stage, but you can't pick against John Jones until he loses, so I have to go with Jones.
I know you like a bet as well, Sean. Do the odds of 5-1 on Reyes interest you? They don't really interest me a lot, personally.
It's a bit low, I think.
It's a bit, yeah, I agree. I think it's a bit small. You probably have to be going towards 7s, 8s, 9s for me to be interested.
Yeah, I haven't had a look at it. Be doing the betting show on Friday, but I haven't had a look at the odds so far. Like, if I was to take a shot in Reyes, I'd probably just go in the round 1 or round 2 knockout. Yeah. Like, that's what I'd probably be going for, because I think past that, Reyes actually has very good cardio, but I think against John Jones, there's no one knocking him. No, he'd watch him get knocked out in the 5th round. But I think he's so good at adjusting the fighters that if you get to the 3rd, 4th, 5th round against John Jones, you're screwed, to be honest. So I think Reyes early is the best.
Yeah, it's difficult. One thing Reyes does have now, his reach is 77 inches. I thought it was more, but at least he does have that frame, the bigger frame that John Jones seems to struggle with. We don't know if he does, but he seems to struggle with it at least a little bit. The co-main event is Valentina Shevchenko against Katlyn Chookagian. I don't want to get too much into this one, but if you're a betting man, who would you go? Who would you be more favourable for, Dominic Reyes or Chookagian?
Oh, 100% Reyes. God almighty. It's not even close. Reyes has a chance. Chookagian has absolutely no chance whatsoever. I might be going out on a limb on this. Now I look like an idiot if she wins the course, but who cares? I'm saying it. She has no chance. Like, watching the fights, preparing for that fight during the week, and I watched Chookagian's fight, and you look at her and like, she's good head movement, very good defensively, she's a nice jab, throws some good shots inside. And I was like, right, she's a good fighter. Kind of developed the look at her. I was like, maybe we're ruling her out too early. And then I go and watch a couple of Shevchenko fights, and I'm like, nah, she's not. It's not a hope. Just so much quicker. It's so much harder. Just so much better in every area. Yeah. I think Shevchenko will beat her on the feet, and I think she'll take her down and beat her on the ground as well in the first 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah. You can't disagree with that. Shevchenko is phenomenal. Yeah. I actually think she's like 2-9, which probably isn't as short as you might have thought.
Bet that. Put your house on that.
Yeah. Put the house on that.
Let's hope that doesn't kick us fine.
If you gamble responsibly, folks.
Yeah, of course. Let's get out of this card. Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal is apparently going to happen. We haven't really seen any confirmation, but Dana White said it's going to happen, so you know he's always telling the truth. So
Dana never lies.
Dana never lies.
Never once.
Are you confident that this fight is going to happen next, Sean?
Yeah, I think it probably will. I think Masvidal lost his chance at getting McGregor by the way he acted on that fight week. He just completely jumped the shark. And it wasn't just with McGregor, it was with the fans as well. Like, if you look at any of his tweets over that week or, you know, after it, a lot of people were saying, like, all right, George, calm down, like, take a break and stuff. And he absolutely ruined it for himself. And, like, who else is he going to fight? I'd like to see the Diaz rematch because of the way that fight ended, but I think Masvidal was winning that. But yeah, I think the fight will happen. But after that, I don't know how successful it will actually be for the UFC. To me, I don't think it's the fight to make, to be honest, because in the UFC right now, like, you have to think about it two ways. You have to think about it from a sporting point of view. Like, Masvidal's the obvious next choice. He should definitely fight Usman. He has beaten Till, he's beaten Askren, and who's the other one he beat? Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
So, like, 3 great wins there. He definitely deserves that title shot. But also over the last while, Masvidal has seemed to, now it's gone down a bit in the last couple of weeks, but he seemed to have developed into a little bit of a star. You know, The Rock wants to go to his fight and people like him and he's this BMF title and all. And that's only predicated on him winning. And I think when he goes in there, you know, Masvidal, I think, beats him pretty easily. Masvidal goes in there, Usman beats him pretty easily. I think Usman goes in there and beats him, and you've lost that draw. Yeah. And I don't think the UFC should do that. I think give him the Diaz fight again, give him some other big fight, and keep the Masvidal or the Usman fight for down the line. Maybe make the Colby Covington rematch or Edwards or something like that. But yeah, they're going to make the fight. I think the fight will happen, but I don't think it's the right decision right now.
Did you see the stuff with Usman and Masvidal at the Super Bowl?
Yeah,
it was horrible, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't great.
It was horrible.
It wasn't a good look. Dana White called them Neanderthals or something like that. But yeah, I think
it's Dana as well.
Yeah, I think I do think it's going to happen. But I'm just I don't know. I'm a bit confused that it hasn't been announced yet. I know the whole contract negotiations, but Colby Covington did say something interesting. He said that he thinks Masvidal is going to. I know he talks a lot of shit. But he said Masvidal is going to ask for too much money, and this is not going to happen. And I do have a sense about this fight that the way Dana White went about it, saying it's going to happen, it's on this date, but yeah, no contract has been signed, that he's trying to put some pressure on, and maybe it will fall through. We've seen it in the past with actually Colby Covington and Usman as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if this, you know, simply isn't even close. But I do think it will happen. But you know, I'm just a bit confused right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'd never know with Dana really, but I think a lot of these lads. I think a lot of these lads, they like to act as if they have power and stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
And apart from Conor McGregor and maybe John Jones and GSP and Habib, yeah. None of them do. None of them do. The UFC would be fine and dandy to pass up Usman, take the title off him, or pass up Masvidal. They don't give a shit about them. So if they, you know, all of these offers are take it or leave it, basically. They might, you know, go away and talk to Ali Abdelaziz for a couple of weeks about it and then take it. But realistically, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah. Speaking of Colby Covington, what do you think is next? We kind of got, maybe you think a rematch is next, but what do you think is next for Colby Covington? Do you think that's it? Maybe just do that rematch?
Yeah, I'd like to see I don't think they will do that, because I think they'll do the Masvidal fight. But it seems like Colby is injured. I watched his interview with James Lynch, and you know, he was saying he didn't break his jaw, and he was saying, you know, I'm ready to be back and everything like that. But it looks like he's not going to be back until I think he was saying, what was it, International Fight Week? So that's 5 months away or something like that. So you've Woodley versus Edwards coming up here in, what is it, a month?
Yeah.
I mean, the winner of that, I think, makes a lot of sense. I've always wanted to see Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley. I think that's a very good fight. I'd like to see him fight Edwards as well. I suppose one of them lads whoever wins that won't be too happy about fighting Colby Covington and not getting a title shot. But maybe you do the loser against Colby Covington, both coming off of a loss. I don't think Dana has any interest in giving Colby a title shot again, although I'd like to see it. That was a very good fight. I very much enjoyed it. But there's lots of guys around there. There's lots of good matchups, I think, for Colby. But look, the way he's acted, and he's trying. Obviously, you know, it's a troll job. Obviously, trying to be a troll. It's backfired on him in that his fighting is good enough to earn him a title shot, and his talking probably delayed that title shot a little bit. And then in a close, kind of maybe a little bit controversial ending, where a lot of guys in a close fight like that, a very good fight like that, might have gotten a rematch.
Yeah,
he has absolutely no chance. I don't think so. It's completely backfired on him, I think.
Yeah.
Just on Colby, I mean, I think he came out a lot of that, out of that fight with a lot of credit, given how he performed, his chin, his hat, all that. And then he goes on Ariel and he makes every excuse under the fucking sun. He blames this, he blames the ref. It was fixed. It was like. And you're just back to square one with him again.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, are you surprised, the both of you, are you surprised that he's kind of kept his shtick up? Because he revealed it's a it's a gimmick, it is what it is. But like, I think a lot of people thought once he loses, maybe he'll reel it back. But that Ariel interview, he didn't reel it back. He was going to 11 again. Are you surprised?
Not really, but I think he could have dialed it in a little bit and just said, look, I got beat by the better man, but I'm still going to come out here and talk a load of shite. Like.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Not really surprised. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I find it hard to give a shit about Colby Covington, to be honest. I really like him as a fighter. I think Colby's one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC. I think his wrestling, obviously, we all know all about it. He's brilliant. In that Usman fight, I actually didn't think he looked that great. I think he could have beaten Usman if he fought a little bit better. I think he brought injuries into it or something, and I don't think he's mentioned him, but to me, he didn't look like a guy fighting at 100% from the very, very start. But like his stick, I'm not a person who really gets offended or anything, but it's so obviously a stick and it's so obviously a gimmick, and the fact that he's keeping it up, he might as well, because he doesn't really. What's he going to do now? Like completely just back out of it, and like people are not going to take him seriously then anyway. So he might as well keep this up and try to fight his way back to a title, but it's going to be
at this stage in for a penny, in for a pound, isn't it?
Yeah. I think
you have to love him saying he didn't break his jaw when the picture of his jaw getting fucking mangled by Usman is out there as well. Like.
Yeah, I think the fact that it was a good fight and a good performance, he kind of saved himself. If he got embarrassed, that could have been a bad look for him. So it looks like, according to Dana White again, it looks like McGregor will fight the winner of Khabib and Ferguson.
Who'd have thought it, huh?
Who'd have thought it? But, McGregor says he wants to stay active, so is there going to be a step in between that? First things first, is that the right move? Should McGregor get the next 155-pound title fight?
I don't know about that in terms of, like, should he get it? Should he get it? Should he do it? Should he take it? I don't think he should. I think he needs more time. Like, I've been saying this for probably a year now at this stage, but I think McGregor needs to work his way back up. He talked about it himself, this season thing. I've been saying that longer than he's been saying it. He needs to come in and get a few fights before he fights Khabib again. And I think, like, I'm on the record as saying I think he should fight Gaethje next, and not for like, Gaethje's the next contender, it's a contender versus contender match. I think it's a good fight to make. I think it'll be a fun fight. I think Gaethje, that reason, Gaethje is the consensus number one contender after Tony Ferguson. We'll leave that fight aside for a second, the Tony Khabib fight. So if you beat him, you put yourself there. And I think it needs to be at 155 pounds as well. Because remember McGregor that time, I think was it the Dennis Seaver fight or one of those fights where he got on the scale and he goes 145 pounds. That's championship weight. Yeah. I think he needs to do that again. I think he needs to say, like, the first step against Donald Cerrone was, I'm making my comeback, I'm back fighting. And the next step, I think, needs to be an attack towards Khabib. So this is, I'm going for that title, I want to fight Khabib. And you're setting up that fight then, fighting at 155 pounds, beating the contender, getting in there towards the end of the year to fight Khabib. I think it makes loads of sense. And I also think, if you book that fight for, International Fight Week, let's say, or May, or whenever it is, you get McGregor back into camp, you get him getting ready, and then if something happens with the Tony Khabib fight, I think you can put him in there then. But McGregor's, that's why he's great, because he's done that in the past, and that was part of him being the star he was. So I think he'd probably do it again, and it mightn't go well for him, but I think what he needs more than anything else is just to be busy, to be in camp, to have a fight booked. And I don't think waiting out for Khabib to fight in October, November, what's that?
I agree.
8 months away. That's not good for McGregor. I don't think. I think he needs a fight booked as quick as possible.
I got the sense from McGregor that he didn't necessarily want Khabib next. Like, I mean, it sounded like he'd take it if he got it, but from what I got and from what I gathered was he wants to fight somebody else first before that, because he was laying out these dates and he did mention, I want to fight Khabib by the end of the year, not next. Did you get that sense as well?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, Dana wants this fight more than anyone else because it earned so much money from the last time, and that's their bottom line, that they want money. But that's not what's best for Conor McGregor. He's going to earn a lot of money no matter what. You know, the numbers came out there just as I was about to come on with you guys. I think it did 1 million pay-per-view buys in the US alone, and then another 300,000 or so in Canada. That is absolutely huge for ESPN Plus.
500,000 subscriptions as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was the pay-per-view in Ireland and the UK as well, which I'm sure did an awful lot. So McGregor's still a draw. He's an absolute huge draw, and that's against Donald Cerrone with minimal enough talk before or anything like that.
No word
just after Christmas as well. What's he going to draw against Khabib? That's what Dana White's looking at. But for Conor McGregor, if I was advising him, he's a load of money. He can get lots of money whoever he's fighting. He should take his time and wait. Make sure he is the best Conor McGregor before he gets in there. You know, he said it straight away afterwards to Joe Rogan in the cage after beating Cerrone. That's not even the best in me. I'm still not back to the guy who I was. And you know, everyone was saying in his camp and everything that he's looking good. He was looking good towards the end of the camp and everything like that. But it was only towards the end of the camp, really. You know, he was just kind of getting back into it. And I think with another camp, he'd look even better. And then you go into a title fight after that, I think he'd be back in prime position. But there's no shortcuts there. It's going to take time. And anyway, you look at Tyson Fury, you look at all those people who've come back and done it. It takes time to get back to your best. And going in against Khabib now, I don't think for his bottom line and for his pocket, it might be very good. But for his career as a whole, I don't think it's the right decision.
Just speaking of Tyson Fury there, that reasoning is exactly why you lump on Tyson Fury to beat Wilder in February.
Well, 100%.
As you will.
I also think as well, and he kind of admitted this, that he is the type of guy who, if he's not active, if he's not in the gym, if he doesn't have a goal to go towards, all the stuff that's been happening outside the cage happens. And I think that's a bad thing for him, and I think a bad thing for the sport as well. So I do agree. Stay active. The Gaethje fight sounds good at 155, hopefully. The UFC is apparently targeting Volkanovski and Holloway for the rematch. So this is an immediate rematch. We all know about the statistics. It's not good for the challenger generally, or the former champ. But what was your thoughts on this, Sean? Do you think it's the right move to have the rematch immediately, or should they move on and get one of the challengers to get in against Volkanovski?
I've been a big proponent of featherweight moving on for a long time. You know, everyone thinks I hate Frankie Edgar because but it's the division. I just wanted it to move on. You know, you had those two Aldo fights against Holloway, and you had the Frankie Edgar fight. So I'd love to see the division to move on. But Max Holloway deserves it. I think he's done enough. You know, when you beat Aldo, when you absolutely destroy Frankie Edgar, you beat Brian Ortega as well, and I think you deserve the rematch there, but I wouldn't be against him not getting it immediately. I wouldn't be against him having a fight against someone else, proving he's right there at the very top again. I don't think he needs to prove it, but if he did that and get another fight, like there's lots of really good fighters. I was looking at the roster there just before we started, and I don't think Magomed Sharipov has a fight at the moment, so I'd absolutely love to see that. Mirsad Bektic versus Dan Ige fighting this week. That's maybe not the next title challenger, but there's someone going to be moving up towards it there. And, you know, there's the Korean Zombie and Brian Ortega and loads of other people there. But, yeah, I think, Yair Rodriguez as well. There's lots of challenges. I want to see every one of them fight for the title. But my initial thought as the fight was ending was it was a close fight and Holloway deserves a rematch. Watching the fight again, I don't think it was as close as maybe I thought at the time. Volkanovski, I thought, won it pretty clearly. But I still think I'd just about give it to Max Holloway the rematch. Yeah,
like I think he definitely deserves it. I just think it will be good to see him fight somebody else. Like he had that one at lightweight, then moving down, loses his title. So it's kind of, he's in a bad position now. I think a good win would be good for him, and then go back. I think it's more sellable then. I think it's a better fight then. But like, I can't disagree with it. You know?
I'd love to see Max move up and grow into lightweight. I mean, we've seen it took Dustin a bit of time to grow into up there. I'd love to see Max go up and grow into that.
And it might
be
the right time. Just, lose the title, let's go up and start a new journey, I guess.
There's some really fun fights for Max at lightweight.
Yeah.
The big problem, though, for Max Holloway is he's not as young as people think. You know, he's been around for an awful long time, and it's not,
a lot of damage,
I mean, young as a fighter, not his age, because, you know, you have 8-9 years in the UFC. If you're very, very lucky, an MMA career is short, and I don't think he's that much time left. Like, I think he's a terrible matchup for Khabib, to be honest. But I agree with what Sean said there. Like, growing into 155 pounds, I think, is a big thing. If he went up there and got a couple of fights, I think he's a nightmare matchup for Habib. But at this stage of his career, I'm not sure if it's going to happen or not.
That'd be awesome. Some Irish news while we have you on, Sean. Be a good time to get to this. So Gallagher, James Gallagher is off the Bellator Dublin card. Liam McCourt will now headline the card. This card has been absolutely decimated. It's good to see Leah getting that spot, but man, this card is it's falling apart.
Yeah, it's absolutely ravaged. Myself and Graham did a podcast about it. It's like, you look at the card itself, and probably for us going covering it and everyone in Irish MMA, it's still not a terrible card. There's some really good matched fights. Carl Moore has a good fight coming in there. Philip Malpeter has a very good fight. As you mentioned, Liam McCourt, Paul Redmond against Georgie Calcanyon, very good fight. Yeah. To me, the best fight in the card is Franz Malamba versus Ricky Bandejas. Yes. So some really good fights. But there's that big, meaningful fight. That's what it's missing. Peter Queally against Primus was that. If Queally brings Primus, a former champion, that means something. He's gone over to America. He's gone towards title contention. If Gallagher beats Eleanor, there was all the talk before the last fight was that if Gallagher won, he'd be going over to America, getting towards title contention. So that's been lost now as well. And I think the most meaningful fight now is that Ricky Bandejas Franz Malamba fight, as well as being the best fight. But other than that, the Liam McCourt fight, obviously now because it's the main event, has added interest and added meaning as well. But yeah, it's very unfortunate. Like, I actually thought before those two fights were cancelled that I was still missing something. Yeah. Primus is a good name and everything, and I always talked about they need to bring over big American names to make these cards even better. But I don't think he's the guy. We know him, and MMA fans know him, but I don't think even the just less than hardcore MMA fans might know him. So we had MVP the last time, we had Vincent Henderson, we had Miles Jury, along with Queally, along with James Gallagher, along with Liam McCourt and all the Irish people, and this card is 100% definitely a step down. So I think they need to be careful with the Irish crowd and Irish MMA in general, Bellator, and I think they need to stack the deck when they come back, and probably in September again. So look, I'm still looking forward to some of the fights, but it's missing that spark.
I also think there's too many fights on the card for a night for fans going to the card. I mean, I went to the last one. You actually didn't come. Part timer. We were at it, but it starts so early. I like to drink a pint when I'm at the fights.
It's a Friday as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're fucking steamed by the end of the card, and that's the problem. As people get rowdy and it gets a little bit messy, and it's coming to the fights that people want to see, and it's just a bit messy. There's too many fights.
Yeah, it's good for the fans in the arena, as in you're going to have a lot of fans of the guys in there because there's so many Irish fighters. But it's always a weird one, like you'll know this, Sean, like the way you'll have a big crowd of people who are coming to see Fighter X, and then he fights, and then they fuck off, and then it's just slowly people start leaving. It's a weird atmosphere, but yeah, they'll have to stack the deck next time, I think.
100%. Yeah, it's even weirder if you go to one of the shows like the Cage Legacy shows and things like that. There's like it's full up, and then you see this big section of people just gone by the second half. But yeah, that last card, I think Dylan Logan was fighting early, and he's friends are just mad bastards all together, like jumping up and press around the tables and everything. Like, here lads, any chance you get a fucking barrier here to keep these lads away from us? But, I didn't see him for the rest of the night. Then I think they fucked off home or something. So that does seem to happen. All right.
Not the last card, but the one before that. I was deep in what was it, the Chaos Cartel, isn't it? Ryan's
we were in there.
It was great stuff. It was.
Chaos.
And another bit of Irish news: Rhys McKee, this is good news, gets a welterweight title shot in Belfast, headlining for the vacant title. This is great news, and I'm pretty sure I remember reading your bold predictions. Did you say Rhys would win a title, or was it might have been somebody else? Another Irish.
I think I said Ian Garry.
Yeah. Close.
Let's make that fight happen.
Let's
make that fight happen. Yeah.
This is a good fight.
Did I say Rhys McKee would be in the UFC? I'm not sure.
I think you might have said Rhys will be in the UFC. Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah.
Well, this could be the first step.
Yeah. It definitely could be. Like, I think if he wins this, he'll probably get to the UFC because, he's been around for a long time, lots of good wins and stuff. Like, I was kind of looking through who he's going to fight there, and lots of the talk had been Alex Lahora before. But then Alex lost his last fight, and I was looking, his opponent has gone and had like 3 wins in other promotions since November. So I'm a mad lad altogether. So I don't know what's happening. I think he's down at 155 as well. So I'm not sure who he's going to fight, but I don't think it really matters, really. I think Rhys, he's just so good now. Like, I talked to him at the last media day there, and he spoke very well. Rhys is kind of a quiet, unassuming guy, but I think he's improved so much over the last few years in his his demeanour and his fighting ability and everything like that. And I think it's the right time for him now. I think he's ready for that big fight in Belfast in front of his hometown people. And I think if he gets the win there, he's going to get the UFC. And it's great as well because McGregor's the only Irish-born, Irish-trained fighter in the UFC at the moment. Joseph Duffy's the other one, obviously over in Canada. So it'd be great to get the likes of Rhys McKee and Ian Gary and Joe McColgan and Paul Hughes and all those lads back into the UFC again. Obviously, with all the SBG lads kind of gone the Bellator route. So yeah, it's good times for Irish MMA, to be honest, in both sides of it. And this Cage Warriors card should be very good as well.
Belfast to be hopping for that.
Yeah,
it'd be brilliant
atmosphere. Yeah, that's a great headliner. Whoever he fights, it'd be good. As you said, I don't know who he's going to fight. I would have, if Ross Houston did stay around, I still would have loved to see that fight if they would have put it together. But he's gone, and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, that's it. Sean, thanks very much for coming on.
Alright, thanks for having me.
Tell everybody where to find you online.
You know where to find me, at Sean Sheehan BA on Twitter, and listen to the Severum podcast. But other than that, you can find me somewhere anyway. Yeah, so I'm always around.
Check him out on Patreon. Sean, cheers, all the best.
Lad, thanks for having me.
So now to answer your questions, Sean, let's do this. First question is from Quarterhouse. Bjorn Downs. Hey man, don't know who he's talking about, but hey man, I know Rob is out for a while, but who do you think he comes back and fights? A top 3 guy? I assume Rob doesn't mean me.
Rob Palin.
Because I'm active. This is the best camp I've ever had. I feel as good as I have the best training partners. What's another one? Rob Whittaker, I assume.
Yeah.
But yeah, top 3 guy, I think, of course. Former champ, he's got it.
Yeah, I'd be amazed to see him fight anyone outside the top 3. I mean, the Till fight makes sense. He's been calling for that one. Cannonier.
It all depends.
Gastelum.
It depends how long he's out, because the landscape will look very different once he comes back. But yeah, I think for sure to come back top 3 guy, unless he's out for a really, really long time and needs a tune up. David Little, workmate.
Alright, Dave,
you can do this one, Sean.
Who do you think were the UFC's biggest underachievers? I'm speaking in terms of their background in martial arts or other promotions or ability while in the octagon, but for some reason did not get promoted or career with the company fizzled out for other reasons. Could Cowboy be? It's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Do you have one off the top? I have one off the top of my head.
Okay, go
on. My one is Hector Lombard. So Hector Lombard, former Bellator champion at middleweight. Really small guy for middleweight in terms of his height, but he was built like a fucking tank. But he also had a great judo background. I'm pretty sure he went to the Olympics. I don't think he won the Olympics, as in didn't win gold, but he was in the Olympics. And there was huge expectations for him coming over to the UFC. Just didn't happen. He had an okay career. Didn't fight for a title. Lost to some guys he probably should have beat. So that's the one that comes to my mind straight away.
Yeah, I mean, one that's springing to mind right now as underachieving is probably Aaron Pico.
Oh yeah.
But
this is UFC, but that's a good one.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. That guy's still so young, he's still learning, so he's definitely at the minute underachieving, but he still has so long left if he wants. Other guys, I don't know, David Branch was a guy you had sort of high expectations.
Yeah,
not high, but
high enough, yeah.
Yeah, but guys expected to do better. I mean,
what do you think of the Cowboy show?
I was just, do you know who actually popped into my head there was Ala Iaquinta, just because of argument, just when you say with the company fizzle out for other reasons, guys like that who have had arguments with the UFC and sort of got marginalised, and probably not got promoted the way they should have because of it. Nate, even not an underachiever necessarily, but have had issues with the UFC, and I'm not saying Nate's an underachiever at all, but Cowboy as an underachiever, no.
I get what he means. I was actually chatting to him earlier on, and he was talking about Cowboy, and he was talking about how he thinks he's an underachiever because he has so many records but doesn't have the silverware, which I get. I think that's a good argument, but I don't think he underachieved. I think even based on his skills, he's skilled, but he's done pretty well for himself.
Yeah, I think to have the records he have, it kind of comes with probably not winning silverware.
I get the types of records he has.
If he had, say, the silverware, he probably wouldn't have those records. As in, if you compare him to McGregor has he's won belts in 2 divisions. He has records for fastest knockouts at whatever divisions, quickest knockout in a title fight, but he doesn't have the most fights, the most title defenses, the most performance of the night bonuses, this sort of stuff. So I think the type of records Cowboy has come with his style.
I agree. That's good question. Bjorn Downs, that's who the other guy was talking to. Presuming Adesanya beats Romero, are the only fights left for him at middleweight a fight with Costa and then maybe either Till or Cannonier, depending on the winner of that potential bout. Or then finally taking on John Jones. Yeah, I think, you know, the divisions are weird because right now you can say, okay, the only guys he could fight is this guy, and this guy. So in your case, you had Costa or Till or Cannonier. But then some other, you know, elite middleweight that we just don't know about, or at least maybe they're just not that far along in their career, could come along in 2 years and then that's the next guy. So I think they're the, you know, if everything goes to plan, I think they're probably the next challengers for Adesanya. I do agree with that.
I mean, the Gastelum rematch is there.
I like that.
All day of the week. I mean, that's kind of one like the Diaz fight from McGregor. That's just there.
Yeah.
I think. So let's say he goes, beats Romero, beats Costa, and then Till or Cannonier, depending on winners. I mean, realistically, the Till or Cannonier fight is there. Even if Till, whoever beats whoever, like another win or two, and they're back there again.
Yeah.
And then Gastelum is there. That middleweight division is pretty good right now. And I mean, even if Rob comes back, Rob Palin,
my man.
If Rob comes back and if Rob gets 2 wins, 2 good wins under his belt, I mean, he's there or there again.
Yeah.
So yeah, that middleweight division's hopping right now.
What's your thoughts on the John Jones fight?
John needs Adesanya more than Adesanya needs John.
I agree with that.
Don't at me on that one.
I agree.
No,
with
actually,
that.
fucking at me because I'm right. Yeah, because I'm right.
Fucking at him.
Yeah, John needs a headliner with him. John
agree.
needs a co-headliner with him. We've talked about this before. John needs someone else, I think.
I agree.
Yeah, sorry.
So, alright, Sean.
Oh,
You can take that one.
Linus, who is the most universally disliked fighter in your opinion? Do you want to just answer that one? Do you want to say it in sync with each other? 3, 2, 1. Colby.
You think so?
Who are you going to say?
I wasn't going to say anyone, I was still thinking.
Obviously it's Colby.
I think some people like Colby now. I don't know why. Although he's kind of running, like he had some good grace. He had some good grace with fans for a while after that last fight, and then he went on the Ariel show and started talking a lot of shit, and I think burned some bridges again. So maybe Colby. His one is interesting. John Jones. What do you think about that? Do you think John Jones is universally disliked?
The way I took the question is, I mean, Jones isn't a guy that anyone's really going to like, given what he is past and all that, but he's a guy you like to watch. I think Colby is just a dick.
Yeah.
Like a dickhead.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Greg Hardy, but he said before he's before the UFC.
That's a pretty good shout, actually.
But yeah, he kind of doesn't count because everyone hated him before the UFC. Maybe Colby. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said this to you yesterday. I mean, Colby came out of that Usman fight with a lot of credit.
Yeah.
Given just how he performed, the heart he showed, and the chin he had, and then to go on the Ariel show like that and whinge
great.
And fucking whinge and excuse after excuse, and they fixed it and all this bullshit. Like,
it wasn't great.
If he'd have come on and said, "Yeah, look, I got beat by the better man," sometimes you talk some shit, sometimes the backfires. Like,
yeah, I do. Do you know what's one, right? Or who is one? Have you ever found a Nick Lentz fan?
No.
No one likes Nick Lentz for some reason. Because I don't know what it was. I think it was the whole thing with BJ Penn, and just no one likes Nick Lentz. That's my pick.
That's a left field pick, Rob.
It is, isn't it?
That's such a
tell me if you
that's
agree with
such
me.
a hipster pick.
It fucking is a hipster pick, but it's fucking true though. It's true. No one likes Nick Lentz.
You can take this one, Rob.
Jesus.
Come on. This man's writing essays in our comment section. I love it.
Alright, I'm going to paraphrase this one because I just kind of read it there. But after the Colby fight, Usman has avoided 2 of the biggest fights in Conor and Masvidal.
I wouldn't say avoided personally.
Well, he said that he wanted Edwards. That was his call out was. Remember, he said he wanted Edwards. The other 2 guys don't deserve it. So essentially, Linus is asking, why did he say that? Is he dodging them, and is it a bad move? Essentially, it's very long, but yeah.
I think we talked about something similar before, and I'd imagine the reason Usman wants to fight Edwards is because he has a win over him, and he's like, yeah, grand, let's go.
Yeah.
And he knows how much he's getting paid in his contract. He's on that champion contract. He's like, it's easy money. The Masvidal, I don't think fighters don't duck anyone really. I think.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think it's a very difficult argument to make, isn't it? That someone's ducking somebody.
Yeah, I think so. The Conor fight, I mean, he's not ducking that fight. He'd take that fight every day of the week. I think Usman would big time fancy his chances against Conor.
The thing with the Conor one, I think a lot of people now, they don't really want to call out Conor, because remember Conor said a while ago he responds more to people who aren't really begging for the fight in a way. Like, I think a lot of people have taken that approach. Like, if they want to fight him, they won't really, call for it in the public. They'll kind of, say,
because how Cowboy got it.
Yeah, he's like, he's nobody. I'll beat him any time of the week, and that kind of fires up Conor. And maybe that's what Usman was saying, because Usman basically said it wouldn't be competitive. I'd punch him around. I'm not interested. But like deep down, I'm sure he is.
This Conor kind of reminds me of Canelo in boxing at the minute.
Yeah.
So Canelo's a guy who, if you want to fight him, you have to be dead respectful, and you can't. You don't want to say anything bad about him, because he'll just say, "Fuck you, I'm not giving you a payday."
Yeah.
So
that's a good.
Yeah. Whereas Billy Joe Saunders has gone around calling him a fucking pussy ass Mexican bitch and all this, and like he'll just say, "Fuck you, I'm not giving you a payday," because he's the star in boxing. He can do what he wants. Like,
he's the A side, essentially. Yeah. Go for it.
Where does the baddest mofo in the cul-de-sac? That's a great name. Where does the sport of MMA go if fighters like Khabib and Conor are making 100k a fight? How does that change the sport, and will it bring more boxers and other athletes? They're making more than 100k a fight.
Conor, I think Conor's last purse, at least the one against Khabib was 3 mil, right?
Yeah.
And then probably
against Diaz it was the same.
Yeah, and I think against Cowboy plus 10 pay-per-view points. And Khabib I think was 2 million against Conor. So they're making a hell of a lot. So I guess that is more substantial, so it makes this question more relevant. Sean, this is one for you, because you talk about this quite a lot, about boxers not wanting to come to MMA because there's not enough money.
Yeah.
But is this kind of thing, like these numbers, would they entice more boxers to say, let's make a move over to MMA? Maybe younger boxers.
100k a fight?
No. What the actual figure is, like 2-3
mil.
mil.
Sorry. No.
No, still not enough.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Joshua's making. You have more guys at the top of the game, and probably mid-level are making more money than a lot of the top guys in MMA.
Wow. So
like Cowboy got, what was it,
two, wasn't it?
200 a show. Like, he definitely got a bonus aside from that, but like I don't know if he got pay-per-view.
Did he not get pay-per-view?
I think I was reading an article on it. He probably got an undisclosed bonus after the show just handed to him.
Right.
Which is dodgy as fuck, because Luke was talking about it, just given the documents that had been released beforehand.
Yeah.
No, it's not. As in, you have co-main event guys third down on the card making probably close to $1 million. Like, the only people in the lower down the weights you go in boxing, the less the money, obviously. Yeah. But like Anthony Joshua probably made. Tyson Fury makes 20 million a fight to fight some tin can.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
20 million. McGregor, that's everything. Like,
McGregor said he made 50 million against Cerrone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said. I don't know if it's.
He said 80 actually originally.
Was it 80? Was it? Alright, so
I'll give you an example actually. Like, if Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua fight, they both make 100 million for that fight.
Yeah.
100 million.
Yeah. See, it's very different with MMA and boxing. I don't think you can compare the two, because, like, essentially with boxing, if you have a fight, the main event fighter is the promotion for the most part. In the big one, they are the promotion. That's what it is. Whereas MMA is structured more so like a league. So I think it's very difficult to make that comparison. They're very, very different structures.
The structure is very different. The structure, as in Anthony Joshua owns his own shows. So when he fights, Matchroom Sport are the promoters. They take a cut of the revenue. That's they're his management, Matchroom. So they take a cut, but he owns the show.
Yeah, it's his show,
Yeah, so there's a show on this weekend. It's Kell Brook fighting. Matchroom own that show.
Yeah.
Because Kell Brook isn't the name Anthony Joshua. Matchroom own the show. They pay a purse to all the guys in the card. That is much more. That structure there is more like MMA.
That's a bit closer,
yeah. But Anthony Joshua, the purse is for the guys on the undercard. This is why you actually don't see good undercards on big fights like that, is because the money for those fights is coming out of Anthony Joshua's pocket. So he's like, why the fuck would I put on a good card?
I'm the star.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
People are tuning in to watch me, and rightfully so. They are.
Whereas in MMA, McGregor will be like, no, I want a banging card underneath because pay-per-view.
Exactly.
Like, if he has a stacked pay-per-view portion of the card, or a really good fight on the main event of the prelims,
it might give something.
He's like, that's an extra 100k buys in the pay-per-views.
Yeah, and it's not coming out of his pocket.
Yeah. It's only gain for him.
Exactly.
So the structure is just very different.
Yeah. Linus, what will your guys' reaction and the fans' reaction and Tony's reaction be if he wins? So I think my reaction would be a little bit of surprise, because even though I do rate Tony Ferguson quite high, and of course he can win the fight, it's still Khabib, and Khabib has been so dominant, and it's very it's very unlikely to see him lose a fight soon, just the way he's been fighting. So if Tony does go out there and submits him, especially if it's one of them fights where he like catches him, he like knocks him out, or maybe catches him in a sub and it's really surprising. But if it's like Tony's winning all the rounds and he's just dominating the whole fight, of course, like the end won't be surprising because we're just waiting on that. But yeah, I'd be surprised. I think most fans will be as well.
Yeah, what would my reaction be? I don't know. It'd probably go batshit crazy. Like, I'm not going to enact what I would do. Like, but I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, I would be very surprised.
And yeah, I think the manner of it would depend. I mean, if he caught him, you'd probably like you were McGregor. I'd be like, oh, yeah, oh my god. But I mean, if he puts a 4-round beat down on him and then just finishes him,
it just becomes inevitable. Then you're like, fair enough.
So,
well done, unbelievable, Tony Ferguson.
Dependent on the manner.
It's weird though, isn't it? I'd be surprised, but I know he can win a fight.
Yeah.
Salvastola. Jorge versus Snoozman. Is it on or not? This is really weird.
Is that Dana? Is that fight on or what? I don't know.
I don't know. It's weird. They obviously haven't signed the fight because it hasn't been announced. Dana White said it was going to happen, but we've seen this plenty of times before.
Yeah, that could be Dana just pressuring both guys to take the fight. So.
Exactly. And now you have Colby coming out saying, I want the rematch. And I know that Jorge's going to ask for more money, and I'm going to step in. I don't know.
Oh, he's going to be like, show me that cheese, man.
Yeah, he is, and rightfully so. Rory McGrath. Do you think the Irish government, let's get into politics, not quite, do you think the Irish government should have a centre of excellence for combat sports in Ireland? I think they have plenty of things they need to do first, like, fix the healthcare system and housing. But if possible, I think it'd be great, especially because, especially for boxing. MMA, I'm not sure. For boxing, it'd be good just because they have such a elite level.
Not to hijack you there, but the Irish, what's it called? The High Performance Unit in boxing, they are probably the most well-funded amateur athletes in Ireland, so they're well looked after. I'm not calling them out for being well looked after. They totally deserve to be. They represent us in the Olympics every time with absolute brilliance. Like, So, a centre, I don't know. I mean, if you had a similar high performance unit for the amateur MMA guys, then I don't know if a centre of excellence is the right way to go. I think if you had a proper structured high performance program for the guys, I think that makes more sense.
Yeah, I do agree.
I don't think a centre is the best way to spend the money.
Yeah, like an actual centre. I kind of meant more of a system of best practices type thing. But it'd be cool. But I wouldn't push for it. James Maudsley, do you believe Conor McGregor is good for the sport at this point? Jumping cues, etc. I think Conor with one end. Do I think he's good? That's a good question. Like, obviously, financially, he's excellent for the sport, for the UFC, because if you saw the numbers that Disney reported, unbelievable stuff. Is it setting a bad precedent for the future with the jumping of cues, fighting in weight classes that, and getting title fights based on your performance in a different weight class? Probably not, but do I think that's going to stick with anyone else? Nah.
Yeah, I think
it's a one-time thing.
I mean, we don't like to see it. Well, not that we don't like to see it, but we'll complain about it and whatever, but I mean, who else can actually say that I'm doing this? I'm going to fight I'm going to fight a lightweight at 70 and I'm going to move up the rankings then.
I think it's a special case. I don't think it's going to
it's very much a special case.
Nobody else. Like, maybe in 5 years some other fighter like Conor who's, but it's going to be one person. It's not going to really set that bad precedent. But then, all the legal stuff could be a bad thing for the sport if they all come out. So, we'll see. Yusuf N, do you really think that Saudi Arabia offered $100 million to host Khabib's next fight, given that Ari Emanuel pulled the plug on the Saudi Arabian investment into the UFC after the Khashoggi murder? That was the Washington Post, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would believe that they've offered that, to be honest.
I believe they offered it, because I don't think...
Joshua, they offered to host
that. I believe they offered it. Do I think the UFC would take it after that? Maybe not, because I did read about that.
I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, maybe they would, but like the fact that Ari Emanuel pulled out a lot of investment from Saudi Arabia, I think it was just early 2019. I guess it was after that incident. And plus, did you see that Saudi Arabia apparently hacked Jeff Bezos' phone as well? The Crown Prince or something like that?
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
I think the UFC would have no qualms whatsoever about putting this...
Morally, no.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, 100 million... Like, the thing is now, because the way it works is, so if Saudi host the event, they own the gate and everything. That money's too much. McGregor and Khabib will just say, I'm not fighting unless it's in Saudi. 50 million, guaranteed. Plus pay-per-view points. Come on.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I think they would. I think ultimately, I think that, like WWE have done shows and all in Saudi Arabia.
Joshua Ruiz too, isn't
Josh? Yeah, exactly. So I don't think they'll be above it. I just think there is that little sticking point that Ari Emanuel did pull out of Saudi Arabia, and I'm sure there was a shit ton of money involved there as well.
Yeah.
So there is that.
That's us, Rob. Yeah.
Great stuff. What a show, Sean. Unbelievable stuff from you again this week. I love that you dressed up again.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, shorten it this week again.
Yeah, and you can't see the pants, but he has some nice pants on. And thanks. Well, I hope you have pants on, Sean. And thanks to Sean, the other Sean Sheehan, for coming on. Excellent as always. We had him on a long time ago.
Yeah,
but,
it's been a while.
It's been a while, but we'll do it again. That's great. Cheers. Have a good weekend, Sean.